Hey guys, Scott here. So I said I've wanted to make a guide on how to do like macro gameplay properly because it's one of the hardest things to actually explain because it's just more of a general game sense of things. So one of the ways I thought I could maybe do it is just by going over a game I played and then talking about every decision I made and why I made it and why I didn't take some chases and why I did take some chases, why I hook people, where I hook people, just pointing out things like that that are the general macro gameplay of DBD because I think that is the most important part to learn. And I know, and I just spent the past 20 minutes doing that. But right as I finished, I realized that as soon as I did this, people were just going to go, yeah, but the survivors you were going against were low MMR. I won like 8 trillion Demogorgon games in a row, but no, it's the you got low MMR. My survivors are 8. I win 8 trillion and 1 games with clown in a row. So people are just going to say this shit and they're probably going to disregard it. So I thought it'd be a much better idea to just go over an actual tournament match. This was, I believe, the semifinals in Switch's recent tournament that was on Tofu's channel. It was a really fun tournament to watch, at least the end of it anyway. And I thought I would just go over that instead, because this way you cannot possibly say the players involved are bad, because they are not. They're better than you and better than me. So I think that'd be a much better idea, and we can go over what makes good macro gameplay. We're going to go over Nightlight on Killer. He's playing Blight, and he 4Ks at 4 gens in a tournament semifinals. So if that's possible, I need people to understand that people always go like, well, how is that possible in like a tournament? You know, the survivors do gens in 3 minutes in tournaments, stuff like that. It's still based on what the killer does, how quickly the killer's downing people, which is the micro gameplay, and then how much he's controlling the map, which is the macro gameplay. It's still a lot based on that. And that's how, when you have a very, very good killer, the generators can go a lot slower. And then people always misattribute that to, oh, the survivors are just doing bad. They're not doing gens. No, it's because the killer is not physically letting them do it. Now, obviously, Blight is a very good killer. And, you know, if we throw him on Clown against this team on this map, he's obviously not going to get the same results. But the general principles of macro gameplay are always there. Now, Blight is much better at capitalizing on this because he can physically get to places a lot quicker. Like Spirit and Nurse can do this too. There's a lot of killers that can do it, but obviously Blight is very good at it. But the whole point is the principles of it are still the same. The ideas and what you should be doing are still roughly the same. Blight can just do it better. So I just wanted to go over this game, and we'll kind of pause it and go based on what he is doing, and I'll try to explain exactly what is going on here. So we'll start right off, and let's actually lower that so we're not talking over multiple people. So they are on Gas 7. Now he has Corrupt Intervention, and the first thing that he does is he immediately goes to a generator that is corrupted, because typically Corrupt Intervention is going to block generators that are further away from you, and that's typically also where the survivors are going to spawn. So it's a good thing to go check there first. Even though you're not really under any pressure of losing that gen, it's a good idea to find someone. So he finds someone pretty fast, as Blight can tend to do. And here he actually doesn't get a hit with his first power usage, which is not great. And this is probably the first macro decision he makes. The first thing he does, he immediately abandons that chase. He does not begin chasing that ace. Now, why doesn't he begin chasing that ace? Well, the reason is that ace is running towards the corrupted generators. So we know that ace is now not really going to be pressuring anything. So he's running towards a section of the map in which he is functionally useless. And so Nightlight knows that, and knows there's not really a reason to continue chasing into that area where gens are blocked, because that means the entire rest of the map is going to have survivors working on gens. So even though he doesn't have Ruin or anything like that, the first thing he does is abandon that chase and decide to go to another generator, which, being a tournament, no doubt someone is already working on, and that's exactly what he finds. So he goes here and he sees Nancy immediately start to leave. Now, Nancy is in a worse area than the ace. Ace at least had a 4 lane, which is not great, but he's able to get a hit on Nancy before she is able to get anywhere else. The player is Wispy, by the way, who's an extremely good killer, and just being the sort of dead zone that she's in. So he takes a chase in a much less safe area and is able to down the survivor, where the survivor pretty much has no option. She ran really early, but it wasn't enough because Blight is fast enough to catch up, and so it didn't really matter. Now, the first thing he does immediately after hooking her, he sees someone on a hill. He actually just saw someone on that hill right there. I don't have to go back and look at it. He just saw someone on that hill, but he doesn't care, because the first thing he does is go back to the gen he assumes the ace would still be on. And this would make sense. This is the logical area I would check too, because that's where we saw ace running away from. And we assume as soon as he stopped chasing the ace would bounce back and immediately start working on this generator again. But he goes and he sees no one there, goes right back because now there's no reason to try to pressure that area anymore. So he sees scratch marks to his left, so he knows there's at least one person there. He sees a survivor right here. So right now he knows where 75% of the team is. This is extremely valuable information. Now in his mind, even though he's paying attention to what's going on here and what's going on over here, he is trying to figure out which generator the fourth survivor is on, because he's probably going to have to try to pressure that after whatever this resolves. However, by staying here, he has way too much pressure on the team to abandon this. There are 2 people not on gens now, which means he can afford to just stay here and sort of dick around here. This is why you don't chase, you don't want to be chased around teammates that are on hooks. So they're still trying to get as much gen progress as possible because he's kind of in a position to camp right now. But he's in a position to camp because the survivors have sort of put themselves in a position to where that's a possible thing he can do to gain a bunch of benefit. Now they have to dedicate 2 people to the save, or he'll just be able to, do whatever he wants. Now, this being a tournament, he, of course, immediately tunnels the person off the hook because there's only 1 borrowed time allowed in tournaments. And so he's taken the 25% or, 25% chance. And the thing is, though, even if they did have borrowed time, he's Blight. If he hits him with borrowed time, they get away for 5 seconds, and Blight can just catch back up and just down him again. If he's Nurse, they can just down him again. If he's Spirit, they can just down him again. So tunneling in this scenario actually is still pretty smart. Even if they have DS and they hit the DS, they're 4 or 5 seconds stun. These killers can still catch up really, really fast. So it's still a smart decision to actually tunnel a person, where normally it's not if you're playing, again, like Clown or someone, because you're probably going to end up losing more time. But on this killer particularly, it is a smarter choice. So now we get to the information that she does not have Decisive Strike, which is basically a guarantee that she's dead. There's pretty much nothing she can do to survive at this point. She has to get unhooked at some point. He'll be there to tunnel her off the hook, and there's pretty much nothing she can do. So already he's at a scenario where he's going to kill someone with only a single generator done because he's been pressuring as many people as possible. So now he goes over here. He tries to hear if that generator is being worked on. He hears it is not being worked on, and he realizes he can go back. So all he's doing is just bouncing between generators, making sure no one is still working on anything. There's no game progression being had, and he's still kind of pressuring the hook at the same time. There also was a crow that just landed here, so he's kind of hovering around a bit. He sees the tap here, and he decides to not chase. Now, the reason he decides to not chase is because what is that tap doing? He's trying to lead the killer away from the hook and the generators. But Nightlight's not stupid. He knows that's exactly what's happening. So he realizes the tap has absolutely no value to anybody right now. It's not a dig on the player. He's just not doing a gen. He's not saving. He's not healing. He's doing nothing. So it's kind of like that scenario when you have someone clicking you and following you, while you're chasing someone, someone's clicking and following you with a flashlight. Just ignore them. They're not doing anything. Don't chase them. That's what they want. You only chase people who are doing something at detriment to you. Those are the only times you actually want to begin chasing that person, because you're stopping them from progressing the game. If they're not progressing the game, there's no reason to chase them. So he completely ignores that and then just goes back here because he knows that Wispy's going to be dead in 20 seconds. So someone's got to go save him. Now, when Tab is in a better area to not have to go too far away, he gets a free hit and still sort of ignores it. Now, they do a very good for the people on Wispy, so she's already at full health again. But it's still the smarter play to immediately tunnel the player out of the match when they know they don't have DS, and borrowed time is not going to be relevant anymore. The fact that he found out he did not have DS was just, going to guarantee that this person is going to die. Now, they get a really good body block here that prevents a hit, and that delays the hit by a little bit, but this pallet is pretty unsafe, and there's not really much she can do about it. So she is forced out here, and then another really good body block, forcing the hit. Nightlight wastes no time. He knows he has to hit there. And again, he just ignores the Claudette because he knows that this Nancy is on death hook, and then gets the down. Again, we're only at 1 generator done, and now there's a player dead in the semifinals of a tournament with very, very good players. Because most of this was done with just excellent macro decisions. Now, obviously, his micro is good. He's just an extremely good Blight. But still, a lot of this is because of macro decisions. So he goes to the last generator he know that was being worked on, and he has pop. Now, what do I say about kicking generators? It's almost always a bad idea to kick a generator, right? However, the one time I say it's typically fine is if you have nothing better to do at the current moment. There's no survivor to chase, you don't have any real good information on where another chase can immediately start, and there's a generator right nearby. In that scenario, that is the one good time that it is actually a good idea to pop a gen, because you're not really losing anything. You're not losing distance to a chase, you're not losing, them potentially resetting with heals. You just have nothing better to do, so you do it. And that is the one time where it's actually a good idea to use pop. Goes back to the other gen where we saw the crow back. but obviously no one's there. And at this point, he can just sort of bounce around, and he sees the injured, I believe. God, I can't tell. I think it's Ace. And then he's just going to chase here at this tile here. And, not much to it. This is a tile that you will eventually go down to a blight with. But he is able to get a pallet drop, and he's able to get a good firecracker blind. But Nightlight has ears, and here's he went to the left, and he's able to kind of confirm this down as well. And at this point, now, at most, 2 people can be working on a generator. One of them just healed. He saw Claudette healed, so he knows Claudette wasn't on a generator that entire time, so committing to this chase is not really that big of a deal either. So now he's got a hook here, and now there's only 2 people left to save, which means probably only 1 person is going to save, which means only 1 guy's left on a generator, and he sees that generator was worked on, so he knows someone's probably nearby. He's going to start checking all these nearby buildings. And he, in fact, does find somebody here. He sees a slight scratch marks on the left, and he's going to, I believe he downs him here. Yeah, he does a pretty good bounce here. And again, that's a very unsafe pallet. Probably the correct call from the Ace would be to try to run out that door, but the thing is, you'll notice he kicked the correct breakable wall. If he kicked the other breakable wall, the Ace would have had an exit, but he went further away to kick the other breakable wall, so the Ace wouldn't actually have an easy exit, which is still just very, very smart. That's more of a micro gameplay thing, but that's still just an extremely smart decision to make. So now he's got the Ace slugged on the ground, and now if they want to be able to save Ryan on the hook, well, obviously they need to get the last person off a generator. So again, no one's on a generator. Even though there's still 3 players in the match, 0 people are on generators. And this is how good killers make games seem slower. This is how good killers make it seem like the survivors are terrible by, having the games last, 10 minutes before a single gen pops. This is how they do it. Now, obviously, you have to still be a pretty strong killer. You're not doing this with Clown, like I said. But if you are playing a remotely decent killer and you have very good macro gameplay, this is how you make people look bad. This is how, survivors look like they're not doing any gens or anything like that. And that's a very frustrating thing to see when, we play out of our minds one game and they only do like 1 or 2 generators or something like that. And then everyone's just like, oh my God, these survivors suck. They only do 1 or 2 gens. It's not a black and white statement like that. That's not how it works. It's a give and take from both sides. If the killer is putting out an insane amount of pressure, the survivors do generators at a quicker time. If you chase 1 guy for 2 minutes at the start of the match and 3 gens pop, that's not uncommon. That is because you're not doing anything else to any other survivor. If you're able to pressure more than that, then the gens will go slower. And that's why I think it's always a little bit annoying to players who play their minds out to say that, well, the survivors just suck. They only did 1 or 2 gens. So sometimes it's because the killer is really, really good at putting out pressure. And that is what they're able to do. They do another generator, but it's mostly just a meme generator. He's dead. He's like, fuck it, I'm finishing this gen. So it's basically a 4K at 5 gens. Or I'm sorry, at 4 gens. So that is basically it. He goes on for a little bit more to slug, and he's trying to get the 4K. I think one of them actually bleeds out because he just can't find them. But at the end of the day, it's basically a 4K at 4 gens in the semifinals of a tournament. And it's because, obviously, his blight is just extremely good, but his macro decisions were extremely important. And I hope highlighting his decisions was an attempt to explain the best choices to make. But like I said, it's more of a general game sense thing. It changes every single game, depending on the map, the players you're going against, what perks they have, what perks you have, the killer you're playing. There's so many variables that go into describing macro play that the most I can say, this is a good example of macro play as Blight on Gas Heaven. That's the most I can say, but I figure that's better than nothing, and I thought I would at least try. But that is pretty much it. Before people don't shut the fuck up about this, no, he's not playing stretch res. No one in the tournament's playing stretch res. They have made it not allowed since the devs have said it's not allowed. They are, in fact, still good without it. Amazing. But that is it, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and hopefully this is a little insightful. That's it. See you guys.